I think decision time is going to be forced by the current issues surrounding the London Stadium, Olympic Stadium, whatever you want to call it. Certainly not in territory that the stadium operators ever thought they'd find themselves in, and the same would go for West Ham. But last year, if I tell you that the stadium made a £28 million loss, you may or may not be surprised, but those are the facts. That was when everything was going well. That was when there was a plan in place. Regular Premier League football, athletics meetings, concerts, and of course a Major League Baseball game. There may have been more than one. You may know better than me. That's everything. That's everything they wanted apart from the naming rights, which they weren't able to secure. But I think things are about to change. I'm just not sure whether that is going to be good or whether that's going to be bad for West Ham. Before we get into that, we've got to name that Noble. I'll go straight into it. You know the concept now. Dom has superimposed Mark Noble's face on another player. You've got to guess it. I will give the answer at the end of the video. I'll reveal the face at the end of the video. Here we go. I'll give you a sneaky few seconds. Recognise it? I got this one wrong as well, by the way. Not very good at this, has to be said. It's the third one. Got all of them wrong. That's all you're getting. The answer is at the end. Be very interested to know who you think it is. I can't tell you now, otherwise you'll be able to chalk one off. Anyway, back to the London Stadium. You've got to look at the context in the situation. I don't doubt that our aim was to eventually own that stadium. Let me just take you back a little while. Initially, we were going to buy the stadium and we would have to convert it ourselves. You remember there was massive legal pressure from Barry Hearn and Daniel Levy. They took it from court to court to court until somebody ruled that they had to change the whole process and have an open tender process for who was going to be in that stadium. But they changed it from ownership of the stadium to tenants. Basically, it was decided we can't just give it away. We're going to have tenants. At that point of tenancy, Tottenham dropped out of the running. Leyton Orient dropped out of the running. I think it was left to West Ham and possibly a Formula One race and this, that and the other. Obviously, West Ham won the long-term tenancy, the 99-year lease. But we always wanted, originally, to own the stadium. So since we got in there, I think really the end game and the end goal has been for us to own the stadium. And then possibly the owners then have a massive asset which is then attached to the club. And if they then want to go and sell up, then it's an attractive proposition. There's a massive piece of prime land there, which is going to be attractive because obviously Stratford is an up-and-coming area. Now, we negotiated a very, very low rent. I mean, ridiculous. Call it a peppercorn rent. At the moment, after many, many legal disputes, it's gone up to £3 million a year. But that's it. We pay for nothing. We don't pay the electricity bill. We don't pay for the stewards. We pay nothing. We get office space from within that building, and it is a vast building. We often look at it and think 55,000, 60,000. That was a 90,000 capacity stadium. That's how that was built for the Olympics. It was a very successful Olympics. There's a lot of space inside it. We've got some office space there. Again, we don't pay for it. We don't even have to pay for the rent for where the club's shop is. So we've got, realistically, whether you like the stadium or you don't, we've got a good deal. In many respects, too good a deal. But even if we had even if we paid double that, and we paid £6 million a year, the stadium's still making a massive loss. 28 million last year is projected by 2023. So in 3 years' time, it's projected that stadium, since we moved in, will have made £150 million worth of losses. Now, I've been thinking for quite a long time that that's a hard loss to swallow for the City of London. And it is the City of London, it is the Mayor's office. The Mayor's office put into place the LLDC, that's the London Legacy Development Corporation. They are there to oversee the legacy of the Olympics. An arm's length management company of that is E20. That's who's running the stadium at the moment. And it doesn't seem to matter what they do. They can't turn that into a profit-making venture. Now, I do think under the best circumstances where the economy is booming, I think that out of the mayor's budget, out of the London budget, they would subsidise 2 or 3 million for a venue. I think probably they would. But I've often wondered, even when the going was good, are they going to continue to subsidise and basically give the stadium 20 or 30 million pounds a year out of the budget? I didn't think so in the good times. And now it's not the good times, now's the bad times. I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of what's going on with the transfer infrastructure in London, the transport infrastructure in London. But it's TRL, and I wager TRL are losing a lot of money at the moment. When all this is over, and even now, a lot of the budget is going to have to go towards that. They're building the NHS Nightingale. It's at the ExCeL Arena. I don't blame the ExCeL Arena for doing that. People say it's a nice thing to do. Well, there's nothing else going on there. O2 must be looking at their building at the moment and thinking, ooh, what are we going to do here? It's basically, as Martin Samuel said, it's an empty shop. They have nothing to sell. They have nothing to offer. The ExCeL Centre was a good move. Obviously, a large part of it is coming out of the government emergency budget, out of the NHS budget. I guess it's not the normal NHS budget. I guess it's part of the money that's been given towards it. But some of that around there will have to come out of the London budget. It might be the transport infrastructure. It might be pressure on just general services in and around it. The money is better deserved to go there. The policing at the moment. The police are, whilst they might not be dealing with what we might call traditional crime, they are out policing the streets at the moment. They are basically trying to keep law and order. They're trying to make everybody adhere into the social distancing rules. Police costs will be up. In fact, the cost of pretty much everything is going to be up. The demand on the purse strings, on that pot of money that's allocated towards London, is needed more elsewhere. So I do wonder when the next round of talks, discussions, negotiations come up, if you've paid any interest, you've all seen it, they all sit in that room round in a circle, a committee, and they discuss where the money goes the next time it happens for the London Stadium. I do wonder how much appetite there's going to be in that room for just for it to continue to keep subsidising it. I wouldn't be surprised if there's, I don't know, many people around that table, 20, 30. If everybody around that table sits down and thinks, actually, we just can't, it's just not important. The hospitals are important, the roads are important, the police are important. Getting London back up and running again is important. This stadium is just not important. No, we're not going to give you the money. So what then happens realistically? That £28 million loss. Well, I'll tell you what actually happens is they can't pay the outsourcing companies that provide Delaware North, for instance, the catering. They can't pay for the catering to be there. They can't pay the catering bills. They can't pay for the stewards to be there. Because once again, that's done by third party. I think security is done by G4. They can't pay G4. They can't pay the electricity bills because there's no profit there. They need a cheque from the government. They need a cheque from the mayor's office to subsidise the losses made at the stadium. So what happens then? Well, I think they've got two options. At that point, they either mothball it completely. And they say, this can't run. And that leaves us, by the way, without a home. Now, technically, yes, we are meant to have a 99-year lease, and they are meant to provide a stadium with a certain amount of seating that is fit and able by Premier League rules to host Premier League football. That's great. But who are we going to sue? What if the LLDC actually gets dissolved? What if they think, actually, we can't afford this corporation anymore? Who are we going to sue? Go and sue the mayor's office? I can't imagine there's a judge in the land, bearing in mind that the country will be in recession, bearing in mind, excuse me, that all of that money has gone towards hospitals, has gone towards policing, has gone towards transport, that there'll be a judge in the land that rules in a favour of West Ham United against, in essence, the state. Not going to happen. Just because it would be the wrong thing to do. The football ain't as important as the hospitals and whatnot. That's one thing. If that happens, I think there's a real possibility we could find ourselves without a home. The other one, and probably the more likely of the two, is that we get given the stadium. I think we'd get offered it first. I think they would say, give us 100 million, give us 200 million, something like that. And I think at that point we would say, we haven't got 200 million. We can't afford it. I think we may say, we'll give you what we got for Upton Park, which was whatever it was, 28, 38 million, can't remember now. And then we'll take the stadium on. That's a possibility. But I think our future is uncertain because of everything that's happened. There have been times during this when I've looked at the amount of staff that people with stadiums are having to pay out. Look at Tottenham furloughing their staff. We don't have those staff costs. And there's been times when I thought it's an advantage during this situation not to own your own stadium. But as it goes on, as it drags, I think it's distinctly a disadvantage. And I also think when you get to that point, even if we do own the stadium, and the stadium is given to us, and even if you cut out the moving the retractable seating, which costs £8 to £11 million a year, so the seating won't be retractable anymore, it's still going to be losing 20 odd million quid a year. How do we offset those losses? I think there's a very, very real possibility that actually we can't afford to run that stadium either. Because it's just too big. It's too expensive. I don't know. It's an interesting one. Let me know what you think. We'll finish up with that name, that noble. Recognise him? Any ideas? I thought it might be Tristan. Oh, sure, it might be Tristan. But I was wrong. It's Elaine. Don't play very much for these players, do they? But you know what? I guess if we put up the players that have played loads of games for us, it would be an easy guess. Thank you, Dom, for doing that. Thank you for tuning in. Please do stay well. Enjoy your Easter weekend as much as you can. It's a bit of a weird one. I'll be back tomorrow with another video.